Everything is going crazy there. Right in front of my eyes, just stepped out onto the balcony, damn it.
In direct response to Russia's relentless strikes on Ukraine's energy grid, Kyiv has unleashed a powerful wave of retaliation. Ukrainian forces are now striking deep into Russia's own energy network, hitting power stations, plants, and critical infrastructure that fuel the Kremlin's war machine. Explosions have rocked multiple regions as Ukraine expands the reach and precision of its long-range attacks, turning the tables and bringing the energy war back to Russia's doorstep. A thermal power plant in Voronezh, a city in southwestern Russia, was reportedly attacked overnight on November 9, according to multiple sources. Residents in Voronezh reported hearing explosions and experienced temporary power outages. Earlier in the night, the regional governor warned of a possible missile threat and drone activity. Local authorities have not confirmed the reported attack, and the Kyiv Independent could not verify the incident. Russian telegram channels claimed that the Voronezh combined heat and power plant, the city's main energy supplier for residential buildings and major industrial facilities, had been attacked. Footage circulated by Exilanova Plus appeared to show an explosion at the plant. Voronezh Oblast neighbors Ukraine's Kharkiv Oblast and is often used as a launch point for Russia's attack on the front line, as well as the city of Kharkiv. Last month, Ukraine's special forces confirmed attacking radar systems in the region. Officials have not reported any casualties or damage. Ukrainian authorities have not commented on the alleged attack.
Everything is going crazy there. Right in front of my eyes, just stepped out onto the balcony, damn it.
Right there, it seems like it hit the wires, basically. Then there was a big flash over there, and when it hit over there, right there...
Russian forces targeted energy substations that power the Khmelnytsky and Rivne nuclear power plants overnight on November 8th, amid its large-scale attack on Ukraine's energy infrastructure, Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha said. These were not accidental but well-planned strikes. Russia is deliberately endangering nuclear safety in Europe, Sybiha remarked on social media. The foreign minister did not clarify whether the substations were damaged or struck in the attacks. Officials did not report any disruptions to the operations of the nuclear power plants. Russia launched 45 cruise and ballistic missiles, as well as over 450 towards Ukrainian targets overnight in what Energy Minister Svitlana Hrinchuk called one of the largest direct ballistic missile attacks on energy facilities since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion in February 2022. Emergency outages were introduced in several Ukrainian regions due to the attack, according to Ukraine's state grid operator Ukrenergo, with Kyiv facing over 12 hours of power cuts. Following the attacks directed towards the substations, Sybiha called in for an urgent meeting of the International Atomic Energy Agency's Board of Governors. There needs to be global pressure to force Moscow to stop its nuclear blackmail, Sybiha said, calling on China and India, Russia's top energy importers, to demand Russia stop reckless attacks on nuclear energy that risk a catastrophic incident. Both nuclear power plants are situated in western Ukraine, far from the front, but are nonetheless vulnerable to nearby infrastructure strikes. In September, IAEA staff at the Khmelnytsky and Rivne nuclear power plants reported hearing drones and gunfire during Russia's mass strike on Ukraine's west. The IAEA has also repeatedly raised concerns about the safety of the occupied Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, a Ukrainian facility housing armed Russian troops and facing emergency shutdowns and power outages. Both Khmelnytsky and Rivne nuclear power plants remain under the supervision of Ukraine's nuclear regulator and the IAEA, which has warned that any nearby military activity carries grave risks. Ukrainian special forces destroyed a Russian S-400 launcher and an ammunition depot in occupied Crimea. The ammo stockpile of Russia's 18th Army was hit in Udakny, while the S-400 system was taken out in Ujutny, near Yevpatoria, both on October 6th, Ukraine continues to pound Russian military targets across occupied Crimea with relentless precision strikes. Explosions rock air bases, depots, and radar sites almost daily, crippling logistics and air defenses. Kyiv's message is clear. Crimea is no longer a safe haven for Russia's war machine. A strike hit the location and ammunition depot of Russia's 1,307th Regiment. Secondary detonations were reported. Mobilized Russian soldiers serving on temporary contracts are being threatened en masse with execution if they do not sign contracts, making them permanent soldiers and ineligible for post-war demobilization. Russian war bloggers are forcefully condemning this practice. Russia began a partial mobilization of reservists from September 2022 to raise 300,000 troops in the aftermath of Ukraine routing its forces in the Kharkiv region. Their time-limited service has been extended indefinitely by order of Vladimir Putin. Since then, Russia has chosen to rely more on volunteers who have signed contracts to become permanent professional contract soldiers. Contract soldiers are paid less than the mobilized and are not subject to demobilization when it eventually happens. Reports in December 2024 indicated that Russian commanders had unofficially been ordered to transfer mobilized soldiers onto permanent contracts. This has now become systematic and is carried out with considerable brutality, causing many complaints. Russian war blogger, journalist, and campaigner Anastasia Kashavarova writes, "One of the most pressing issues currently troubling participants in the special military operation is the forced signing of contracts by mobilized soldiers. Neither I nor the soldiers understand why this is being done. Perhaps it's a way to report the arrival of new contract soldiers. Perhaps it's so that mobilized soldiers don't count on being discharged or rotated at the end of the special military operation or during additional mobilization activities, since their experience is already colossal and they are needed in the army. Perhaps it's to avoid highlighting the losses caused by incompetent commanders when they send them to combat zones foolishly and in an ill-considered way. Many organizations are inundated with complaints from mobilized soldiers and their families who are forced to sign contracts with the Ministry of Defense. Commanders cajole and threaten, but everyone remains silent. They are afraid to speak up and address this issue. Being afraid to stand up for your country's fighters is cowardice and betrayal, not for deserters or swindlers, but truly for those who were called up and who, torn from their ordinary, monotonous lives, went to fulfill their duty. I appeal to the leadership of the Ministry of Defense and the General Staff. You are now raking up the legacy of the collapse of the USSR. You are jailing corrupt officials, uncovering new machinations in the Russian armed forces and speaking openly about it. But the honor of the uniform must be defended not only in the rear, but also on the front lines. Please pay attention to the problem. Threats, assaults, and punishments are used to force mobilized soldiers to sign contracts. Political officers and commanders do not explain to the soldiers why this is necessary. Their attitude towards people is disgusting. This must be corrected. Allow mobilized soldiers the right to remain as mobilized soldiers. They deserve it. Many have been serving for 3 years without vacations or rotations. They, like career soldiers and many volunteer contract soldiers, did not receive multi-million rubles payments from their contracts because their homeland called them up. Despite the claim that they all go on leave, we wrestle them into leave through the prosecutor's office. This attitude towards soldiers quickly spreads across the front. It lowers the army's morale and combat spirit. It sows resentment within the country through the families of those mobilized. It undermines trust in the country's leadership. Everyone knows that people are needed at the front. Commanders complain that they need to fight, but there aren't enough men. Regions send everyone on contract for exorbitant sums. Many are unfit to fight, which means they don't participate in rotations and are incapable of serving as a combat unit. The attitude of some commanders quickly becomes known. All this, combined, reduces the number of needed volunteers at the front who could fight effectively, but don't go due to the lack of organized work and discipline in the army. Conclusion: the entire burden of military action falls once again on the shoulders of those who have been fighting since 2022 and earlier. on the shoulders of those who didn't receive multi-million ruble contract payments. Those who ensured advancement at the very beginning, during the most difficult times. And you need to incentivize and reward these fighters. Career soldiers, volunteers, mobilized soldiers, and contract soldiers. And not give millions to those who can't even hold an automatic rifle, who show up at the training ground drunk or stoned, real combat pay, evacuate and provide real medical care. Don't threaten to send people on assaults, but turn assault troops into an elite, as was done before. Don't force mobilized soldiers to sign contracts under threat and fight internally against those who don't take care of their personnel. If we correct all the mistakes that everyone knows about, then normal guys will go to the front. Two Majors agrees and provides more context. About a month or two ago, a new intensification of pressure began to coerce those mobilized back in 2022 into signing contracts. Political officers and personnel officers weren't always able to find the right words, and frankly, they threatened to transfer people to the hottest spots. Not all of these threats were empty. The issue isn't a single evil commander, but rather statistics and strange objectives. In fact, high-ranking officials periodically report that the number of contract soldiers in the army has increased recently, with people signing contracts. But here we should immediately look at how many of these new contract soldiers, and this is the only number that appears in the pretty reports, previously served in these same units. We need to see if anyone is engaging in statistical manipulation, quite legal, in their reports to the higher-ups. They're apparently trying to solve the problem of replenishing active units by intensifying the recruitment of civilian contract soldiers. The situation bears no resemblance to the pre-mobilization period of 2022, when frontline units sometimes had as few as 30% of their personnel. The military units in which our comrades served at the time, exhausted and bled dry in battle, then noted with immense relief and gratitude the arrival of highly motivated mobilized soldiers who immediately joined the fighting units on the front line and tore the enemy.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.
Rescues every day. We had a guy last week at 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.